that you also have people of other faith, including the Jews, who also believe that the Messiah is about to appear. And Jim, do you recall a couple of years ago I came and did some shows with you, and I think it was on the book Zenith 2016.
Yes.
But at the time I was saying, why did so many dozens literally, of ancient seers, you're a seer, why did so many ancient seers believe that the Antichrist would appear on earth in the year 2016. Jonathan Edwards, the great famous preacher, wrote letters at the university level in which he said the Antichrist will appear in the year 2016. Wrote that almost 200 years ago. We found literally dozens and dozens of Protestant university-level documents, books, at the library at Yale University and places like that, where the most prolific evangelical and Protestant writers at the time were trying to determine when's the Antichrist going to appear, and dozens of them said the year 2016. Said this at the turn of the century in the 1800s. But we also, when we did those shows that day, you might recall, we talked about the Zohar. Now, the Zohar, anybody that knows, the rabbi certainly is familiar with the Zohar. This is the most important work of Jewish Kabbalah, mysticism. And all of the Orthodox Jews in Israel study the Zohar. Why is that important? Because in a section in the Zohar called the Ve'era section, there's a subsection called Signs Heralding Mashiach, or the coming of the Messiah. And in this 700-year-old Jewish document, it says when the Messiah. So what I was talking about with the Jewish rabbis, here's one headline for you. This is out of Israel. The time has come for God to reveal the Messiah, says Jerusalem's chief rabbi. And then here was one just the week before, another one of Israel's chief rabbis, Rabbi Kandinsky, Messiah could come this week, and was actually notifying the students there in the rabbinical schools in Israel. He's telling them, don't travel, don't leave Jerusalem, because the Messiah is going to manifest himself at any moment now. So these rabbis that study the Zohar, it sounds very much to me like somebody between 2012, 2013, made himself known to them, and they believe that the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, is here. They believe it. These are their top rabbis. These are not nut jobs. These are the top rabbis in Israel that are saying this. They're saying he could manifest this week. It's time for him to come. And but because we know that the Orthodox Jews rejected Jesus Christ, who might they be talking about? This would be Antichrist.
I'm not saying he's the Messiah or anything, but he's being persecuted and crucified like Jesus was, because he's it's just like when he went into the temple to overturn the money changer's cart. You know, he was a revolutionary, and that's what we need around here.
And if Hillary does win, why do you think God would let that happen?
If that happened, I think you better get right with God, because end times are coming, and everybody better get into a survival mode and prepare for, because then I believe Jesus is coming pretty soon after that. So Hillary winning is the sign of the end of the earth? Yeah, probably Armageddon. That's probably right coming. You'll probably see the end of the United States as it is, as a sovereign nation.
The world will come to a flaming end at midnight tonight. Without my help and knowledge, every one of you will be dead. I am the only one. Just me. I can build a wall around your homes that nothing will penetrate. You're a liar, Trump.
I alone can fix it. We will build a great wall along the southern border.
The people were ready to believe. Like sheep, they ran toward the slaughterhouse. And waiting for them was the high priest of fraud.
Build the wall. Build the wall. Build the wall.
Fact or Fiction is brought to you by America's Finest Carpet.
Prototypes for President Trump's proposed border wall are now being built in Otay Mesa. And in tonight's Fact or Fiction, we're looking into a 27-year-old comic that seemed to predict this. A meme going around claims to show a 1990 comic strip that featured a controversial wall in New York City built by Donald Trump, who then rides a populist wave to gain power. It's actually true. Artist Peter Cooper published the strip in July 1990 in Heavy Metal magazine. Trump rises to power in New York on a platform centered around building a wall. Cooper says the idea came to him after a visit to Berlin in 1987 before their wall came down.
Planning to remain in town for long? Well, I understand I have until midnight. And you heard? Yeah, I heard. Your name is Trump? I am the only one. Just me. I can build a wall around your homes that nothing will penetrate. What do we do? How do we save ourselves? You ask, how do you build that wall? You ask, and I'm here to tell you.
Do it. So somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
Batman trumps Trump Towers. Hey guys, I'm Tatiana Carrier, and I've got the latest on the Trump Tower takeover by none other than Wayne Enterprises. The Dark Knight Rises is still shooting in NYC, and thanks to our New York source, my best friend, we have an exclusive look at the latest transformation of the city, Trump Towers, which has been turned into Wayne Enterprises. We've been showing you guys lots of images from Chris Nolan's upcoming Batman flick, and I must say this one's one of my personal faves. We also have some pretty cool images of Christian Bale leaving the building and
There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne. There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne.
The wind whispered through the forest. A storm is coming.
There's a storm coming, Mr. Wayne.
The wind whispered through the forest. A storm is coming. You cannot defeat the storm. From the trees rose a resounding voice. I fear nothing. I come when the trumpet sounds. I am the storm, the great American grizzly. Introducing the original Trumpy Bear.
Fox has declared Donald Trump is president. The prophets were right, people.
Right.
Against all odds.
Ricky, praise God, Ricky!
I'll tell you what you folks have witnessed tonight. As I said earlier, it's almost like the parting of the Red Sea.
It is.
Impossible. We've been comparing it with Elijah and the offering and calling for the fire to come down from heaven.
Yeah.
This was a miracle, not by man. God called him to do it. I have helped build the main major television networks for Christ. And I've seen miracles. Every time it took a miracle. It took a miracle to build CBN. It took a miracle to build TBN. They had to move a mountain at TBN. Mm-hmm. I've seen the miracles beyond miracles. But I believe today I have seen the greatest miracle I have ever seen.
If they all want stand against us and only Micronesia is rooting for us. When the stars don't fish my Marlene, don't you worry, Trump is the same.
Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the American Peace Plan. There's an occasional sighting, but never a firm confirmation. Israel's Channel 13 reported on Wednesday of a recent briefing given by a senior U.S. official on the topic. So what details reportedly came out of that meeting? A Palestinian state would be formed in 85 to 90% of the West Bank, an area more than double what the Palestinian Authority controls today. That would necessitate undefined land swaps in order to make up for some of the territory Israel would lose control over. The big settlement blocks like Gush Etzion, Ma'ale Adumim, and Ariel would become part of Israel. Construction would be permanently frozen in more isolated settlements like Yitzhar and Itamar, and any settlement outpost illegal under Israeli law would be evacuated. On one of the big questions, Jerusalem, according to the briefing, the Holy City would become a shared capital, with Israel in West Jerusalem and parts of East Jerusalem, and a Palestinian capital in the other parts of East Jerusalem. And the so-called Holy Basin, including the Temple Mount and Old City, would remain under Israeli sovereignty.
They're brain dead, really.
They're blind, deaf, and very dumb. Blind, deaf, and very dumb. Don't forget, I don't know if you haven't watched the show, I happen to be Jewish by birth, and 75% of all Jews vote Democrat, and they don't like Trump. And this is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world, not just America. Trump's the best president for Israel in the history of the world, and the Jewish people love him like he is the king of Israel. They love him like he is the second coming of God.
Trump initially tried to beat back accusations of anti-Semitism by tweeting a quote, labeling him the king of Israel, insisting, quote, they love him like he is the second coming of God.
Talk show host Wayne Allen Root, who's on Newsmax, decided to talk about Donald Trump and how he's really just a giant gift to the Jewish people, okay? And immediately following that, Trump decided to tweet his statements, and here's what he said. Thank you to Wayne Allen Root for the very nice words. President Trump is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world, not just America. He is the best president for Israel in the history of the world, and the Jewish people in Israel love him. So the second part of his tweet reads as follows, and the Jewish people in Israel love him like he's the king of Israel. They love him like he's the second coming of God.
And only Micronesia is rooting for us. When the stars don't fish my Marlene, don't you worry, from existence. Through the sky in the rain, hallelujah, from the city of Zion, for our loving fight like a lion.
That the payment for my sin was the precious blood he gave, but now he's alive and there's an empty grave.
Yes. Look at the propaganda that I just showed you in Israel. Look at the posters. Who else are the Jewish people looking to be some sort of Messiah? And let's go into the family lineage of Donald Trump, or Drumpf, the correct name for his family, which is of Germanic origin, or even his mother's side, which is of Scottish origin. Look at Bruce Wayne as the Dark Knight, the Bruce is the Don. They're both kings, but the Bruce is a Scottish king. Bruce Wayne and Wayne Enterprises was based at the Trump Tower in the movie in New York City. Don Drumpf equals 666 in English gematria. Donald John Trump equals 666 in the American computer language of ASC2. We must keep our eyes on all of these players on the world stage. Look, Barack Obama is not going to be welcomed by the Jews, but he will be by the Muslims. Don't think that there's not multiple heads to this beast. They're looking for the Mahdi. There's more to this puzzle than I have. This is urgent. Jesus is coming. The dark night is rising, the beast is rising, and Jesus is coming to save all of us who believe on him. I pray that you find yourselves faithful in the gospel. That's the completed work of Jesus Christ, and not of anything of ourselves, lest we boast in Ephesians 2:8. I pray that we rely solely on him, focus solely on him, and put down all these swords of division between the church, and focus on not fighting one another, but fighting the real enemy. If we're all separated, we are conquered by the enemy. We must unite under the banner of the crucifixion, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus as the payment for past, present, and future sins. If we can't agree upon that, then we have no fellowship together. We have no strength. Our strength comes from Jesus alone. It doesn't come from fingers pointing at one another saying, you're this, you're that, you're the other. We could all slander each other and accuse each other all day long. That is not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to achieve the kingdom purpose.